So welcome everybody. We've got a great panel ahead of us, and I'm hoping there we have Karim and Randy. You coming on board? Excellent. There we have everybody. Okay, so let me welcome our esteemed guests, and also let me introduce them to everybody. So we have today Randy Saltzman, who is the Director of Brand Marketing at ABNB. Federal Credit Union. Randy is an experienced leader of marketing and business development, sales, and media PR in both the corporate world and the nonprofit setting. He has over 20 years of experience in the advertising agency business side of the world as an account supervisor, coupled with over 20 years of senior management roles leading internal marketing teams at several credit unions. Randy has helped those organizations develop, execute marketing and business strategies that have consistently achieved or exceeded ROI goals for those organizations. Welcome, Randy. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me today.
Fantastic. And we have Karim Masri, who is the head of digital data solutions at Brands, a global consulting company. Karim is a seasoned marketer in digital media, with over 10 years experience in spearheading digital transformation and delivering results in marketing industry. His experience encompasses UX, UI, consultancy, tech stack solutions, along with a strong background in both ad tech and martech solutions. His extensive experience with key clients in a variety of industries like automotive, e-commerce, financial services, with clients such as GM, Ford, Amazon, IKEA, amongst others. Welcome, Karim. How are you? You're mute.
Great.
Okay,
Yeah,
we go.
great. Thank you for
Fantastic.
having
Well,
me.
great to have you. Great to have you both here today. And I'd like to we've had great panels that have been very specific on what CDPs bring to the world, but I want to jump in the deep end of a broader question. So in a world where systems are gathering information faster than we can perhaps derive any meaningful insight from them, what advice would you have for the average CMO on how to use this enormous amount of data that's available to them to drive successful marketing outcomes? We can start with Randy. Let's start with you.
So I guess it's not the volume of data, it's how you want to use it. It is what's important to you to know, whether it's your audience, the consumer. It can be overwhelming, and you have to hone in on what's important to you. It has to be all about target audiences, demographics, psychographics, generations, and where they fit in. So while there's all that data out there, it's still important at the end of the day to understand who you're trying to reach, how you're trying to reach them, what message that you're trying to reach them with, talking in their generational language. I mean, brands are all about voice and personality and what they mean to someone. And so talking to someone who is a millennial is very different than a baby boomer. And so all of those pieces are important to putting together how you can focus on the audience that you need to reach, get them with a message that resonates with them, and get them to act. It's pretty simple.
Okay. Karim, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree. The key is on actionable data, and it's easy to get overwhelmed by a lot of volume of data available in the market, or even as well on the useful equally data that we're seeing. CMOs should always try to prioritize directly informed strategic goals. And CDP can as well help segmenting and analyzing data effectively. And it's crucial for them to identify foster data-driven culture in their organization. And like Andy mentioned, it's all about different demographics, psychology, and all of the data effectiveness. This is where it needs to be collected and have a decision-making process on it. So it's really important to identify what it needs to be done from the data, and personalization is key in here. Yeah.
Okay. And well, speaking of personalization, it's a really big topic on most people's agenda at the moment. How important is data in that equation, and what impact does technology help to bring to the table to drive this very personalized engagement that I think we're all striving to achieve? Karim,
So
start with
I'll-
you.
Yeah.
Or,
All right. Go ahead, Andy.
or Randy, whichever. Go ahead.
Yes.
All right, well, I'll start it off and you can kind of pile on if you would.
Yeah.
So again, we're talking about information overload these days. If you think about the amount of messages, whether it is marketing messages, email, texts, it's an overwhelming situation. I mean, life years ago was a little bit simpler. And so I think trying to cut through the clutter is so important. How do you get something across to someone who either has an affinity for your product and service, doesn't know about you, but should know about you? How can you have messaging that cuts through the clutter? And I think, again, it does start with data. As Karim said, it's so important to hone in on who you want to reach, how often you want to reach them, what are the messages that will speak their language and will resonate with them. And so, again, to me, it's really trying to take what is overload information and kind of boil it down into its essence so that you can reach someone on a one-to-one basis, talk their language, and get them to act. It's easier said than done, especially with all the information that's out there. But again, I stress that we are overloaded with information. We are overloaded with messaging, and how you can make your message stand out from the rest, that's the key.
Yes.
Karim, you want to answer that?
Yeah, it is very important on personalization, especially now as marketeers, they always strive to get in different regions on what the platforms they want to advertise on how to communicate with their audiences. But eventually, each platform has its own personalization and its own content, and it's really important for the marketeers themselves to identify what are the communication and how the personalization is going to happen. And without having the data, you'll not be able to do so. So without it, we cannot understand the customer needs, preferences, behaviors, technology, particularly when we talked about previously on AI and machine learning and how it plays a crucial role in processing this data, is delivering a personalized experience at scale, because you will be able to identify capturing all the data from different sources, and it will allow you to understand who is your target audiences and what the right communication messages that we need to drive it. It's not about the message as well, it's about the creative. So it combines different worlds from creative to content with technology, where it gives you the ultimate real-time tailored interaction, and which will allow us to have like the ultimate experience for the user, where this is can be happen across using CDPs and different integration with CDPs.
Okay, so we talked about data. We're talking about technology. We're talking about volume of data, and there was a recent study that said that marketers don't see the volume data as the big challenge. So what they see as the major challenge is the accuracy of the data that they're getting and the quality of that data. And how does something like a CDP help you sort of to pick through your data, figure out what the key data is, what the right data is to bring in? Or is there other technologies that you would say are out there doing that besides the CDP?
Karim, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy. So absolutely, the quality of the data is really important. Inaccurate or outdated data can lead to misguided strategies and wasted resources, right? And it's essential to have robust data management practices in place, whether be it including regular cleaning data and validating it, and it all happens when you have the right implementation on CDP, right? With CDP, you will be able to aggregate all the data that you have and have the ultimate view that you want to reach out to. Because I'll give you an example, all the marketeers and even the startup companies that they're doing, whether be it an e-commerce or a website or any different type of owned media. The problem is they only use 8%, and to be honest, it's less than 8% in these kind of data. I'll take an example on Google Analytics. There's a lot of resources that you can, data that you can come up with, but you're not using it. You're not able to take the analysis and insights from it, right? So with CDP, you'll be able to aggregate all the profiling, you'll be able to understand the user behavior, and based on that, you can create different segmentation and understand whether the user is navigating through your e-commerce website, what the events that they're trying to do on your website, and this is where you can understand more on the perspective of the user. How many times he navigate through a certain page or certain activation page. This is where you'll be able to understand more. And CDP is really provide you with accurate and up to date, and it's up to ready to analysis. And this is where you can activate directly, whether be it on the owned media or whether be it on the paid media as well.
Okay. Randy, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, piggybacking on that, still, it's all about your strategy, what your tactics are, how you can cut through, how you can make messages that you have an affinity with audiences. For example, in our case, they are our members. In some cases, we reach outside our membership to try to attract new members, new customers, if you will. That's very different messaging because they don't know us. They don't know our brand. They don't know what we stand for. And so we use a lot of different data sources that we rely on based on their expertise, some that are great at segmentation, some that are great at demographic breakouts and geographic breakouts, because there is a certain territory that we operate in, but we're expanding our territories all the time so more people can be a part of the credit union. But we try to find people that are experts in their areas of data and experts in their field. We may get into this a little bit later, but data analytics used to be housed inside the marketing team here at the credit union. We have taken that and kind of made it its own separate department because it relates to anyone and everyone within the departments that house the credit union. It's not just a marketing decision, it's everyone's information that they can pull from. So again, we try to find people that are expert in that area. We try to blend all of the data, all of the information, all the segmentation, all the targeted information, and boil it down to what's the campaign, what's the message, who's the target audience, how will we reach them, how often, and then we track their activity, to your point. How will we find out if they are going to, either our website or other places? How long are they spending on the pages? How are they reacting once they get to those pages? So again, we just try to surround ourselves with experts in the field, and we have some in-house people that can help us sift through that.
So speaking to that, in like credit unions and banks, and in particular financial services, but lots of companies are they're sort of business line driven, right? So you have different siloed interests within an organization. Each has their objective. Each wants to, has to hit their number, has to hit their, bringing in X amount of customers who are taking that product. How does marketing manage that sort of ecosystem? Because what I think the previous conversations were about is getting to a real true 360 real-time view of your customer, right? And if you have a whole bunch of siloed activity going on, how do you wrap your arms around that from a marketing standpoint? Because you're ultimately responsible for making sure there's marketing going for each one of these different product lines that you're responsible for. And how does the problem of having data in different places and then technology help you to solve those issues? And Randy, why don't you start this time? If we'll keep it going back and forth.
Yeah. So again, great question. I think about our marketing department as an in-house ad agency. We have internal clients. We have business services whose target audiences are small businesses in a geographic area that we operate in. We have, a mortgage department that has a whole different set of circumstances and target audiences. We have relationship building that we do from a B2B. It's not just a business to consumer in a lot of cases for them connect with builders, connect with realtors and things. And so, each target audience has their own unique flavor and their own unique personality. But again, as an in-house ad agency, we try to create a creative brief. We ask them to answer questions about what's the goal, what's the target audience, what's the timeline, What are the key messages that you want to get across to this target audience? So we help frame and collaborate on how we actually create these campaigns so that they will, in fact, make a difference, have that affinity to our particular mortgage team as opposed to other mortgage lenders or other business services areas. So the in-house agency approach, whether it's the creative approach, and we do have outside agencies that do produce materials, whether it's digital marketing, whether it's email marketing, Google Analytics and all the Google search features. So we treat each individual as an individual client, and their needs are different, their targets are different, and we try to do the campaigns and we try to measure them. If you can't track it, then don't do it.
Okay. Karim?
Yes, I totally agree. If you can't track it, don't do it. This is
it's a waste of money.
This is a waste of money, and this is actually one of my my major thing when I'm using working with clients. Like if you can't track, don't spend money and don't do anything because it's just waste of money. And like Randy mentioned, like I totally agree. Having a 360 view is really important, and understanding the objective from each inner departments, because it's really important for us to identify each department objective, given if we're working on a holistic company. And this will allow us to understand more on the behavior side of the users. And this will allow us as well to integrate all the data from all touch points. And this is whether be it offline or online, because it's really important because different brands or different businesses, they have a store and they have an online store as well. So we need to understand how they navigate through different stores that we own, and how to be able to understand the customer service interaction, because this unification is really integral in our decision. And having such technology, and especially on the CDP part, this will allow you to understand all of the different touch points, how to understand each user understanding, and having those analysis being mapped out to our objective. So yeah.
So Randy,
and I would add one more thing, if
Go
I
ahead.
could, Declan.
Yeah.
Sorry, Karim. So, a lot of things that we do are A/B tests, where we'll do, target audiences, but we'll do different messaging or different creative, for example, maybe use different channels to compare the success of a campaign one to another. And that really gives us more insight into, all right, what might have resonated more? Did the creative just not cut through? Did it not make sense to the member or to the customer? And so, doing A/B testing at the same time and then comparing the results of those two tests help us refine it. And it's never 100% correct. It's not always going to work. Maybe both the tests fail, but invariably we'll find that one resonates and has a better response rate than another.
If you aren't failing, you're not trying. You're not doing enough.
Yeah,
So,
especially nothing is set in stone.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvements.
So within that ecosystem where you're working with each department and you're acting as an ad agency, how do you keep your hands around the most important thing? I think on Jason's one of his slides, it said 80% of companies that excel in CX outperform the competitors in revenue growth, and that's a Forrester quote. So how do you, because even though you've got all of these different business lines, and in particular in the case of a bank or a member, whereas your customer base, they're the individual customer, so they can't be getting all these messages from all these people without you having your hands wrapped around that, so that you're ensuring that the customer's experience is not like they have 6 companies coming from the one company advertising. How do you manage, and can a CDP help you manage that process in a more CX friendly way?
Karim, why don't you take that?
Yeah. It's I've been in both worlds, in IT and ad and marketing, and now what I'm driving is the businesses is to understand that CX is really important, because usually marketeers, they always focus on the paid and owned media in specific, but they don't drive it in the right way. we need to take into consideration the user experience from the day the user exposed to your brand till to the end touch point. You need to understand all of these variables and have mapped out each one of them, because a new customer is not like as a loyalty customer. You need to treat them separately. You need to have their experience separately. You need to understand the demographic of that user. And the next time he visits your store or your online store, you need to have a more dynamic experience tailored to his needs. And this is something that CDP can really help, because with the more audience segmentation and and identification of the user, you'll be able to map out the user journey for you, and having as well as a DXP part of your implementation, which falls under the CDP as well. This is where you'll be able to implement a seamless experience for the user, and understanding more on their needs, whether be it on, like I mentioned, online store or different stores. And it's really important. And this is where you can adjust different objective from the user touch points, right? So if I want to try to have a new user acquisition, that objective is different than having a user to submit the form or to apply for an application or do any certain acquisition event. So this is where you'll be able to identify all those different touch points, and you'll be able to map out a decision tree. Like with the decision tree, and especially with Lemnisk, they have it. They have it as a very nice decision tree on user acquisition, where you can map out if a user is a new user, how to map out the user journey and the content, and having drive all the necessary content and necessary actions that we want the user to perform.
Mhm.
So I think one of the things, building on what you just said, we like to get feedback from our members. Okay, we like to ask them, if we're serving them well, the things that they do like, they don't like, because if we don't have feedback from the people that have a relationship with us already, understand what they like, what they don't like, how they like to be served messaging. So I think the feedback is a huge missing component. If you're not asking those kinds of questions, whether it's, again, the user experience, how we're delivering various channels of messaging, whether it's email or whether it's other vehicles, I think that you're missing the boat. Getting their input. We see reviews, you see reviews. What are people saying that's good or bad? We can do all the marketing in the world, but if our member service is awful, we're not going to have a sustainable business. And so where are the holes? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How could we be doing things better? That will help us in the customer experience area, but also if there's a consensus of things that maybe we're doing right, great, we need to do more of that. If there are things that we're just kind of missing the mark on, they're not afraid to tell us, that's for sure.
Mhm. So one of and we David went into it, one of the big topics, sort of moving into sort of getting your hands around data, the big technology topics these days is AI with ChatGPT and etc. Where do you think, how are we adapting AI right now within marketing? And are there existing technologies that will help you apply AI more easily in today's world, such as a CDP? Karim, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in the previous session, they mentioned a really key important note that without data, AI cannot perform anything, right? And data is key for an AI to start giving you insights and start mapping and program it the way you want to perform. And to be honest, it's really important for the business entity to have the digital maturity and to understand what are the touch points that you want to collect data, and how AI can come in and use this data to give you the ultimate insights and actionable insights for you to take on. And this is really important for the business entity to have the maturity level on what kind of tools and what kind of touch points of data and signals that you want to get and provide for the AI, in order for AI to give you more responsive decision and analysis on it. And it's really thing that most of the companies now, they are struggling to understand that AI is booming. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. The AI is having a really hyped on, but it's not about the hype. It's all about understanding how to leverage the AI into the data and what kind of data you want to provide to it in order for you to take it and action it.
Can I just add, before you jump in, Randy, just ask a quick
Yeah.
question. So with, I think everybody agrees the more data, the better for AI. So it lives and breathes in data. So for AI, would you agree with the hypothesis for AI to really work to its full benefit, you really do need a real-time 360 view of your customer? Like, sure, it could work in a silo and do a product-specific kind of analysis, but the ultimate goal would be to have it, to give it the maximum view of your customer base, so that how it interacted with each one of your silos, how it interacted with every communication, how, and I think in Jason's response, he brought us through a woman who wanted a more personal touch, wanted all of that. But to get that, you have to bring a massive amount of data. You cannot live in a siloed world, and you need a piece of technology. Obviously, I would argue a CDP is the perfect technology. But would you agree that we have to get to that place to really get the benefits of AI? Randy?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Randy.
Our Karim, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Randy, talk. I took my.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, truth be told, I told Declan when he invited me to this that I am not a data head. I have not been a data head, although I rely on smart people that work with me and around me and under me. I'm just starting to really understand a little bit more about how AI works. I think there's always going to still be a personal touch. I think as marketers, we have insights that maybe a machine doesn't have. You can get all the data in the world. You can reach out to the right people. But again, if the message is wrong, or if the voice isn't correct, or it doesn't make sense to someone, or it isn't easy, I mean, I do a lot of writing for all the platforms that we're on. Each one is different. I'll write differently for a social media post than I'll do for a direct marketing campaign, that I'll do for a traditional media campaign. It's just come from experience. But as I said, all the data in the world is not going to just get results unless you have a human touch, the right message, something that makes sense to someone and causes them to act. I mean, we're a commodity product. We have the same product that every bank does, every other credit union does. How can we differentiate ourselves? And just data alone can help us hone in on our targets. However, that's from a branding standpoint, from an awareness standpoint, from an action standpoint. That's where we as humans, I think, really have to still infuse ourselves into the campaigns that we do to make it work the best that it can. It's just not something that you do in a vacuum.
Absolutely. Karim, you want to add to that?
Totally agree with Randy. And it's important in different region. There is different seasonalities, and AI doesn't understand, like in the MENA region or in the APAC, or there's seasonalities where the data changes, where the user behavior change, and some of them there is like force majeure things that we are not capable of, such as COVID. We weren't anticipating that having COVID, for example. These are things that AI cannot capture or cannot take an action based on human interaction and understanding, and even as well on leveraging the market experience. It's really important to identify all of these measures and how to take those data and plug it to the AI, especially when they mention ChatGPT and how he can drive different headlines and description. But talking to user, it's like having a face-to-face interaction with him. I need to convince Randy to buy my product. I need to understand who is Randy, what his capability, what he wants, where he lives, what his interest. All of these action points that I'm understanding about Randy, for example. The AI cannot, maybe can give you a very broad message, which he might like and he might not like. But me as a human interaction with him and talking with him and having the sense of communication on its tone of voice, this is where you can map it. So AI can tick the boxes for you on being proactive, but there's always a place for us as a human to come in and change it and make it more perfectly done for our business marketeers. Yeah.
Sure.
So I would also
go ahead,
add,
Randy. Yeah.
yeah, sorry about that.
No
So
worries. Go ahead.
I have kids who are in their 20s and 30s. I use them as my little guinea pigs because they're very different than than me. They rely on reviews, they rely on referrals, they rely on their friends if they had good experiences. So that's not AI, that's a personal interaction, that's a one-on-one. My daughter will do research. She'll look up the reviews. She'll talk to people that might have done things with this company or with this product. So we can send all the messaging in the world, but if someone doesn't convince her that they've had a good experience or convince her that, it was a value to them or it had, the things that they needed, it blows up. It's a waste of time and waste of money if there are negative things out in the marketplace. And so reputation management is really important, making sure that you understand what people are saying and how they feel about you and your brand. So again, a machine isn't going to tell you that, but my kids will do more research than I ever would, and then they'll make the decision. So I didn't want to leave that out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great point. And I agree with you both. I mean, as it exists today, AI seems to give us the ability to really, at scale, define audiences, right? Down to so you can actually deliver a very, a group that says this is the kind of messaging you should do there. But ultimately, it's up to the humans to design that message. And AI does not live in the physical world. So it's when somebody calls your call center or somebody walks into a branch or somebody walks into a store, that's something that's out of control. That's where, the brand and the brand experience. So the human part has not been removed. Individual, brands, marketing is sort of the ambassador between the brand and the member or the customer. And so with the demand is always to get better performance out of the data or get better performance out of the money being spent on marketing dollars. How do we, does the organizations change? I mean, is there a change in midsize and enterprise in the type of people that are needed with marketing to understand what's coming out of, like data engineers, data scientists, analysts? Are they all key parts of the equation? And then will AI go around and change that in 4 or 5 months or in a year or whatever and take all of that out? So is marketing going through, is that necessary? Do you need data engineers? Do you need data analysts? Do you need data scientists? Depending on obviously the size of the organization. Randy, you want to start?
Well, all of the above. We talk about information overload, but unless you have experts who can sift through that and can really give you, their best thinking, their best recommendations. Again, as marketers, the data is great. It'll help us hone messages, both the language and both the targets. However, typically marketers haven't been great data people. And as I said, I raise my hand and say, that wasn't my background. It's not my area of expertise, but I surround myself with really smart people who can say, okay, what are you trying to accomplish with the campaign? Who are you trying to reach? What kinds of products and services, if that's the kind of campaign that you're running, and what's your desired outcome? And so if you don't ask the right questions, if you don't give them the right input, you're going to get bad output. And so I think given that, having those experts surround us and understand the rationale for what we're doing, understand what we expect to happen, understand how the return, how we track things, absolutely essential. And a small organization as we are, we don't have all of those resources. And as I mentioned, we do rely on some outside expertise, but all of the above is really the easy answer. And then just having us intelligently sift through that, collaborate on it, and make sure that if we're doing A/B testing, if we're doing, campaigns that are either first time out or repeat campaigns, that we keep it fresh, we keep it relevant, and we make sure that if someone hasn't bought a product, maybe what's their propensity for the next product? What is the profile that will allow us, if we're not selling X product, what might else they be interested in? So I think that's a huge part of it.
Okay. Karim?
Yeah. Actually, back in the 2020, I wrote an article on Campaign Middle East about the trifecta. The trifecta is having the marketeers with the data scientist and the IT to work closely with each other, because this is really important as us as a marketeer, or at any type of integrations or any type of action that we're trying to do, because data is huge data, like we mentioned earlier, and we're only using less than half of it, right? And having someone that can able to take this data and harmonize it for us, and try and give us the absolute value of it that we want to take action on it. This is really important. And a lot of tools in the market are being used, but having a CDP where cannot do all the work for you, but at least can take the action from all the different data sources that you have, and harmonize it in a way that is can be readable for the marketeers and understand and action it based on that. And this is example of when a marketeers work in solo, they fail miserably because they're not able to grasp everything that's happening in the market, whether be it on technological advance that's happening, or whether be it on the IT infrastructure, because we all know sometimes IT, they always, block things when it comes to technologies. You can bring this technology in, it will interfere with our security and all of that, data breaches. So it always create a conflict. And given that I've been in both worlds, I can understand the frustration behind it. And yeah, CDP, to be really honest, it can tick that box, and it can facilitate everything that's trying the marketeer to achieve, whether be it on owned media as their own channels, or whether be it on the paid media as well.
Okay. Well, unbelievably, we've actually come to the end of the session. I can't believe that time flew by that fast, but I guess it's all the great content you guys have given us. But before I go, a quick message: is there anything that you guys, any prediction you see in the next 12 months that you want to leave us with, Randy, or both of you, if you have anything, or you let me know where you see trend in the marketplace, either very specific to maybe credit unions, or in a broader sense, Karim, on your end.
So I'm going to take it out of my business. I mean, I've been in the workforce for over 40 years. I think that the pace of business has changed. The instant reaction is what is expected now. I think that we've really been far more intelligent about refining our audiences, targeting our audiences. I think that AI is going to be there, is going to continue to expand. I think that there are things that we don't even know about yet that are about to happen. I think that some of the things that are coming up with AI and how scary people, scared of AI they are about taking over the world. When I was growing up, we had 3 TV channels and a dial phone. And so my kids don't know that. They've never seen that. They kind of laugh at me. And so I just think the pace of technology advancement is so accelerated now, and it's going faster and faster and faster, and trying to keep up with it is almost impossible. So again, going back to the experts, going back to people that are deeply involved and deeply understand not only trends, but what's in the future, that's essential. And they need to provide that to us, because I just don't have the capacity to either understand it or know what's the next great thing.
Karim, you want to finish us off there?
I cannot agree more than Randy. It's really scary how the pace of technology and CX, customer experience, is going to be a key, and communication and being personalization is gonna be a key part, especially on the marketing side, because now the users are being more knowledgeable on the AI. So whether an experienced user or regular user or any other users are trying to see the content, they will be able to differentiate whether this content is being mapped out by an AI or is being mapped out by a human interaction that makes more tone of voice and sentiments into it, right? And this is where users will be able to identify the brand relation and the communication type. And having a CDP on top of a DXP will be growing really fast, and a lot of brands, they will have to adapt to it. And digital maturity, as always, I always talk about digital maturity because it's really important for the entity itself to, before going out to the public, they should be able to have in-house digital maturity knowledge and understanding. And if all the departments are on the same page on the digital infrastructure they are going to perform, this is where anything that will be performed by this department will be having a big exposure on it.
Karim, thank you. And obviously, I couldn't agree more. And I think it was Jason who said it. Foundational enabler. That's what a CDP is. And I couldn't agree more. I think it's a good note. But Randy, Karim, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Your insights were fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.